Good evening, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our 101 things that need to be answered in the final season of Game of Thrones.
Or 6 or 10.
20 or 45.
There's not going to be 101.
There's a lot of stuff that needs to be answered, explained, resolved in this final season of Game of Thrones. And I'm pretty sure we're going to be disappointed in at least in some of them.
Or it's just Doctor Who and shit just doesn't get explained.
Yeah. Where's Melisandre gone? I have a theory on all of that. I didn't have a theory until I listened to Casterly talk today. And Rachel made a really good point. So I'm going to probably sneak that in at some point in time because I really like that explanation.
Okay,
but
cool.
What we're going to do is we're just going to do a free form. This is stuff that pops into our head as we're talking, open forum to discuss Game of Thrones and the final season. To be warned, we are going to spoil stuff that's happened in the last few seasons. So if you are not caught up on your first watch, you should be on your second or third watch already. And if you haven't started your second watch now, it's just watch the final season and just go forward. We did all 66 episodes over 2.5 months.
And we weren't doing it super faithfully or anything. It was maybe 5 or 6 episodes a week.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
there's a bunch of stuff that, like you go back and like, oh, that was important. I didn't know it was that important until.
Yeah. I mean, I rewatched it about 2 years now, up until the most recent season, right? And then we watched the most recent season and went back and rewatched the whole thing again, and it's like, oh, they talk about that in it's
a whole
just
bunch
so
of stuff.
dense. Yep.
So we're gonna start, ladies. Begin.
Okay, so I mean, Gendry in general needs to be explained, but there's so much. There's so much. Because he is Robert Baratheon's son. And there's, in this current season, it was in this current season, I believe. Ooh, now they're all running together. Cersei talks about that she gave birth to a
stillborn baby.
Black-haired, right.
Yes.
And so there is some fan theory out there that maybe Gendry is actually Cersei and Robert's.
He is the prince that's promised. I've been saying that for 6 months now. Right. He is the prince that's promised.
So another thing to add to that theory is him and Arya marry.
I heard that one today. They talked about that today on Casterly Talk, that there's a ship going there between Arya. You have the two, the next two eligible people in the
after Jon and
Dany.
And Dany, right?
And so having them Sansa is not going to marry, and
there was a little bit of talk about Gendry and Sansa, and I was like,
no.
Gendry and Arya have a history, right?
They do have a history, yes.
They were kidnapped by the band of brothers, or the brothers,
Brotherhood without
banners. And in the first season, Robert tells Ned, I have a daughter, or I have a son, you have a daughter.
Yeah.
We all thought they were talking about Sansa and Joffrey, but they could have been talking about.
They could have been, but at that point in time, we didn't really know Gendry's.
We didn't, but that doesn't mean Robert didn't.
Robert didn't, right, exactly.
So I mean, and if he was actually Cersei's and not one of his many whores, then he would have known full well that Gendry was his, because I think they only actually had sex on their wedding night, so she would have had to have gotten...
They make a point of talking about that he was drunk and called out Lyanna's
name, and that was the last time.
That was the last time, and then all of a sudden she had other children with gold hair,
right?
Which was how Ned figured out that they were all Jaime's,
right?
And so it was very
So Gendry in general needs to be
explained.
Yes.
Yes.
But specifically, yeah, I like the Arya Gendry ship.
yes. It's Janardri. No. Ari.
Gennaria. Gennaria.
Arivi. No, we have to figure out something. We're terrible at this.
Yes. Okay. Will Varys die? Which is a popular theory right now because Melisandre told him she was destined to die
on this island.
I think maybe she said we are both destined to die on foreign soil.
Yeah.
I'm going to Esteros, and you're going to Westeros. So, and then I don't know what her name is, but the other red woman, who came,
and they talked about her. They talked about her today on Costly Talk, and I could not remember. They said her name, and I cannot remember what it is.
So she came and saw Varys, and Tyrion. There you go. And all she did was talk to Varys about how, he was bad and had done all this stuff and everything, and she didn't pay Tyrion any mind whatsoever. So that's another kind of theory that
I think Varys actually Varys dying makes sense. He's going to use his life as a sacrifice play to make something happen. But I don't think that's something like a lot of people are saying right now that the Battle of Winterfell we're going to lose a ton of people in that battle.
Right.
And that's like the second episode of whatever 6 or 7 that we're getting this season.
Right.
And so I'm thinking that maybe that's a power play once they get to King's Landing.
Or he could, there is that scene in one of the previews where it looks like he is hiding in the cellar with the kids and the women.
Right, because he's not a fighter. I mean,
so he could be down there, and then something occurs that causes him to have to step up and sacrifice himself.
A lot of 6 episodes, by the way. A lot of fan theories are saying that the Night King is going to raise the dead from the catacombs, and that if they're all in the catacombs hiding, then that would make sense that you have that thing. But then there was also discussions that maybe they're going to use the Brotherhood Without Banners. Has died like 6 or 7 times. Had the sword of light. I'll find it in a minute. But he that he is actually going to be the one who sacrifices himself then to save everyone, because there's an exit out of Winterfell in the catacombs.
Yeah, and so, it makes sense that he will die somehow in this, because the guy that kept raising him from the dead, bringing him back from the dead, died on the other side of the wall. Beric, yeah. So that kind of.
Why did they keep this second? Actually, he's like a 5th layer character. Why do they keep him alive and make a big point of keeping him alive?
Yeah, and then he dies, and it's kind of a big deal. And I think that the Hound actually said, "You better not die anymore," or something to that effect.
Right.
You've lost you
lost your resurrection.
Resurrection, yeah. I'm not going to be able to say his name. Jaqen Hagar, the many-faced god guy.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of questions about him.
Yes.
And if he'll come back, or if he. There's so many. So there was one that he is actually Ned. He was Ned. Ned Stark, and all the way back in the beginning. But he was there because
he was there because
escaped.
he was a security.
No, he escaped. He was in the wagon with all the convicts.
That's right, going to the wall.
Or didn't escape, but they took him to the wall, and he was a prisoner at King's Landing. So he was there, and he left when Ned got beheaded.
Yeah,
he left along with Arya. So that
would be a great play. That would be a great play. He just shows up at Winterfell. Well, he's at Winterfell, right? What no, that's
no, he's still on the Tower Island or White Tower Island or whatever it's called.
But it would be a cool play to have him just like show up and rip his mask off, and it's Sean Bean standing there.
Yeah. Well, and think about how he treated Arya. Like he pushed her and pushed her and pushed her to make her, make her tough. And
he was trying to do that with her dance instructor and trying to do all that stuff in the first season. And they talked about today that Macy Williams said that there was a lot of stuff that is connected to the first season that happened in this season. Not like spoilerly kind of talk about but there's a lot of connective tissue with the first season.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense that you would get.
That was another one I heard, was that he is actually her dance instructor, because his death is off screen, so you never actually see it. He could have defeated the guards
with his wooden sword, his practice sword.
With his practice sword, because he was kicking their ass with it. This one's super popular, that Brandon Stark is the Night King.
Yes.
Did you hear that one a lot?
Yes, I've heard that one a lot, and I'm struggling with it.
I am too. The only thing that really, the stuff I was kind of listening to, they never really super explained it, and I kind of get the feeling it's one of those super deep, like you could do a whole video or podcast or something or whatever, on Brandon Stark being the Night King. But the one thing I did hear that kind of was interesting is old Nan, his
nanny,
the woman that sat next to him when he was bedridden. She told him a story way back in the first season about how she believed that the Night King was a Stark and his name was Brandon.
Yes. Now that some people have said that was just a story to tell, to scare him or whatever.
Right.
But there's also the theory out there that they kept saying that Brandon, you're going to fly. Yeah. And so does that mean he's going to
warg into
one of the dragons or something like that? Or I don't think he's going to ride the dragons, because they've already kind of set up that Jon and Dany are going to ride the two that are left. But him warging into a dragon to maybe save one of them, more likely Jon, would be kind of something.
Or warging into the one that the Night King has assimilated.
Yeah. There's a whole branch that you can go off on, and with just the Night King and Bran. And the thing that comes down to it is Bran has been the three-eyed raven thing. I find it interesting, but really hasn't done anything yet. It's been all set up with the three-eyed raven, except for the last scene in the last season, when he was talking to Sam about Jon's real parentages.
Right.
But there's been a lot of discussion that he is the one who's going to be able to defeat the Night King straight out, because it's magic, and he's got magic, and Brandon's got kind of that magic kind of touch, and he can warg into different people and different people and different animals and stuff like that.
And
so
he can warg into people because he did it into Hodor.
Yeah. So he can warg. Maybe he can warg into the whites to get them to turn on the Night King, or
and
at least
his
keep
apostles or whatever those guys are.
Yeah, the babies of.
Well, and so then talking about Brandon and his seeing kind of where Jon came from. So, Halon Reed, I think it's Halon Reed. So remember when he is at the tower, and Ned, they fight. There's a fight, and then he goes up in the tower.
And he goes up in the tower.
So the only other guy that survived that battle was Halon Reed. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. So
Game of Thrones, there's like 70 names, and they're all
right.
Yeah,
right. So I didn't actually realize this. I don't know why. I just didn't put it all together. He's not really in it very long. But he's Jojen and Mara. Oops, my phone keeps doing go. And Mira. Yeah, Jojen and Mira's father. So Jojen was the kid who was teaching Brandon how to kind of warg and telling him you're the three-eyed raven and everything. And Mira was the girl that took him all the way back home.
Right, and then she left.
And then she left, and she said, I'm going to go home to my family now. Where we're assuming is Halon.
Right.
Because he's the only other one that survived that battle. So we're assuming she's going home to her, and she's, I mean, she's a child. You know, she's
like 16 or 17 or something like that.
Yeah. So there's no reason to believe that he's dead. And he's the only other one besides Brandon using this magical seeing thing. He's the only person alive that actually was there and knows.
Right there, yeah. And Sam knows from the books, the Maester's books.
Yeah, but that
again
doesn't come right out and say.
Right.
They just say, "Oh, I annulled this wedding so I could marry these two people," but doesn't. It's kind of a combination of what Sam read in the book and what Brandon saw that they were able, because Lyanna, is it Lyanna?
Lyanna Stark, yeah.
Yeah, Lyanna whispers at Ned
who he really is,
right?
Like who John really is,
right? So they kind of
and what his real name is, and
had
stuff
to
like
put that all together. So Halon knows. So if Mira goes home and says, "Hey, the Whites are here," and Jon Snow, and so there may be a resurrection of him, because it was kind of weird that he survived. Like, why?
And like strangely survived. Like, he got stabbed in the stomach, if I remember correctly, or slashed in the stomach or something like that.
Yeah,
and was able to come back and stab him in the back. That gave Ned the chance to go up and find. So it was an important scene. But everybody took it as that's an important scene for Ned, because they make a point in that scene too that because Brandon and the first three-eyed raven are talking about, like, Brandon's like, he's better than my dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've heard the story 1,000 times. He beat him, and then he finds out that no, he just embellished the story, which is what all good fighters ever do. There was 20 people. I had a black spoon. It was carnage. But that also puts like questions in the Brand's head about, like, was his father really all like super good, like we all think, like he all thinks he is, like all of them think he was. All the Starks think that.
Well, but that makes him more good, right? Because, his wife forever thought he cheated on her, and he didn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it even makes him better. better.
He still got beheaded for being
dead guy,
a stupid idiot.
Or
read the room, Ned. Read the room.
Or did he?
And so that's my favorite one so far.
The last one I have is just Aryas List, right? So, like, most of the people on her list are dead now, right? Either by her or by other circumstances.
Right. Except Cersei.
Cersei and Gregor are the only two. Now, Gregor and the Hound and the Mountain are gonna have to have an epic.
The Clegane Bowl is gotta have to happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to happen, and it's probably going to be like episode 5 when they get to King's Landing,
right after the battle of
after
Winterfell,
right?
When they all go home, and then everybody realizes Cersei is now double crossed them or
Right. Right. The Golden Company is on the southern flank. All of a sudden, you get the
Yeah.
Whites on the northern flank, and
Yeah.
now they're like, we're screwed.
yeah. So yeah, everybody's expecting that to happen. And then the Brotherhood without banners was on the list, and so was Melisandre. But the last time Arya recited her list, they were off, and it was just Cersei and Gregor.
Right.
And my theory to that is, and I'm not sure how Arya would know this, but both of them have turned, I wouldn't say turned good, but have done things that have benefited her family.
Right.
Because Melisandre brought Jon back, and
Right.
then the Brotherhood went with Jon across the wall, and they helped him fight.
Yeah.
And so it seems like, kind of, again, I don't know how she would know that, because she hasn't even made it to Winterfell yet.
No, she's at Winterfell. That's how we lose Littlefinger. Is that
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but John's gone.
John's gone,
by
yeah.
the time she gets there. So now she knows that they went north of the wall.
Right, but she doesn't.
But he doesn't go straight back. They go to King's Landing.
Yeah.
To show Cersei, like, this is what's really going on, which is still one of my favorite scenes from that season.
Yeah, when it goes running after her,
and she kind of freaks out
yeah.
and stuff, and here keeping trying to keep a straight face, but freaking out.
Yeah. So it would be very just if, because the Hound of the Mountain, they're taken care of, so that Arya gets to kill Cersei. That would
so
be...
my thing has been all along, Jaime's gonna kill Cersei.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's going to come down now.
Well, and that's actually in the prophecy, right? When she goes to that witch or whatever when
she
she's
has
younger,
3 golden haired
her
children, and they all die.
That live. And she called it something, but it will murder you, but the word translates to younger brother.
Younger brother, right. And he's actually younger by like 12 minutes or something like that. Yeah. So that prophecy, there's a problem with the prophecies within Game of Thrones, is that, like all prophecies, they're all up into interpretation, open to interpretation.
Right.
Because the prince that is promised, there's actually not really a word for prince or princess in Valerian.
Yeah.
And is it Valerian? I think it was Valerian. But so it could be the princess that is...
It's non-gender specific.
It's non-gender specific. So that's why everybody kept saying, oh, it's Dany. And then because she's the last Targaryen, and she's got Mother of Dragons and the leader of the Unsullied and the big old long freaking list.
But she's not the last of the Targaryens.
But she's not the last of the Targaryens. She's at the second to last. But there's also, if you go with the timeline of everything, Gendry is Robert's rebellion, which was built on a lie, essentially. So Robert has Gendry has a claim, Jon has a claim, Dany has a claim, so all that kind of stuff. So it's those prophecies that way is hard to interpret. You also have this one with Cersei. If you're going to have that one with Cersei and you're going to die by the hands of your younger brother, it could also be Tyrion.
Well, that's what she's thought.
That's what she's thought the whole time,
which is why she hates him.
But I don't think Tyrion. If Tyrion was going to kill her, he would have had a chance. He's had multiple chances to do it, and if Cersei was going to kill Tyrion, she's had multiple chances to do it.
Right.
So I don't think that's actually. So that's why I keep coming back to it's going to be Jaime, who's going to go to her. They're going to. We'll get to the Battle of Winterfell in a minute, but they're going to get to King's Landing, and they're either going to have to go into a siege.
A siege?
A siege. There's a G in there somewhere. There's have to do in the siege, and they have to negotiate terms.
Right.
Or they're trying to get away from the Whites, and they need to get inside the walls, and Jaime has to go in and convince her, and she's the Mad Queen now.
Yeah.
And so he has to poison her, and they might be Romeo and Juliet where they poison each other.
That's true. And so then that would take the two of them out.
Take the two of them out, and then Tyrion is the hand of the. He's the rightful heir at that point in time, but he's not the rightful heir because they're
King's Landing.
King's Landing, yeah.
But and then there's theories about that Tyrion isn't actually
a Lannister.
Right.
Right.
So then that muddies that whole water.
Right. Because he was able to go and unlock the dragons.
Yeah.
And able to touch them and stuff like Jon was, and only Targaryens have been able, have that ability, Targaryen blood. So the idea that he's a Targaryen in there somehow or whatever is an interesting kind of talk.
Yeah,
process.
I was thinking it was Rhaegar and his mother, I think, is who they were saying maybe he's a product of.
Yeah, that would make interesting. It makes for interesting bedfellows as a story, but it also makes because their plot line in this show is so straightforward. So, but Jaime killing Cersei, I think, is something that I feel like needs to happen. Cersei making it through all of this with everything that happened is just not.
Yeah, but I feel like
acceptable.
All the things you think should happen are not going to.
That's how Game of Thrones has been set up. Actually, one of the things that was said earlier in one of the other episodes of Casterly Talk, and I heard it on another Game of Thrones like preview kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is what has been set up in Game of Thrones where don't get married to a cool character because they're all going to be gone.
They're gonna die.
That the most Game of Thrones thing to do is to have everyone live.
That would be the opposite of what you're expecting.
Everything you're expecting. And so if you have that process, then Cersei wins and everybody is both very happy and ballistically pissed off at the same time. Because I think other than Joffrey was a douchebag, but but his death was satisfying. I still think Ramsay Bolton is the most satisfying death of a bad guy in the entire show.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we have Euron Greyjoy, who's a colossal douchebag too.
Yeah.
So you got that whole thing. But anyways, her living and being the ultimate winner, it would be completely F you to the entire season. I just think it would be awesome.
It's interesting if you think about it because basically all the households have or will have reformed they could potentially all still be standing, plus the Targaryens, which have not been, the,
I know who you're talking about, and I cannot, Tarly.
No, because Sam, the one with the old woman and Jaime poisoned her.
We're the worst. There's too many names in this show, guys. We're so sorry.
That house was wiped out when King's Landing came and defeated.
When Jaime came with all the warriors and everything, and then
because they're the son and the daughter were killed when Cersei blew up the cathedral or whatever when she. I'm trying to remember what that's called. But so they were all knocked out. So then she was the only one left. And
I think it was the Eastwatch episode.
Is it Eastwatch?
I think so.
It might be.
Look, dragons.
But she was the only one left, and then she got
I can't find it.
Poisoned.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was what's going to happen with the Battle of Winterfell. Now the trailers and everything that we've seen so far, everything's been based around the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah.
The only other stuff that we've really seen has been Cersei drinking wine, which means she's not pregnant, which I don't think she was pregnant because she was manipulating Jaime to stay because he's the only one that she has left.
She would drink wine when she was pregnant anyway.
I
don't think she's pregnant.
I don't think she's pregnant. I think it was just a manipulation of Jaime, and that was kind of the final straw for him too, was that he's like out the door. But the Battle of Winterfell is pretty much the only big thing that we've actually seen from any of the trailers and the spotlights and stuff like that. Everything's been based around Winterfell and the crypts of Winterfell and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And so I'm wondering if they do. One theory is they defeat the Whites at Winterfell. Dany then asks Jon to take all of the forces that they have and go south and go to King's Landing
Right.
and get her rightful claim. Or the other theory is they lose to the Whites and they have to escape. And that's the scene where Brienne and Jorah and the Unsullied are all kind of lined up in a line
Yeah.
to kind of maybe block the exit of everyone else.
Okay.
That kind of concept. And
Yeah.
so I think that the Whites are going to win at Winterfell. And that's going to give us the opportunity for whoever dies at Winterfell to still be in the show at King's Landing, but they're zombies.
That's true.
And somebody like Jorah, who has been in the show, has been almost killed off like several times,
Yeah.
and Dany's tossed him aside several times.
Jorah's been in since the beginning,
From
like
the
the
begin-
very
like-
first
like
episode.
first episode or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
And but him sacrificing himself to save Dany or Brienne or the Unsullied or somebody like
Yeah.
that, or Grey Worm or something like that, to do that would be like a nice bow on his story.
Yeah.
It
It should be Dany, because he's
He should do something to save her.
Yeah.
And there's been no. I mean, there's the one shot of the dragon showing up to Winterfell, but there's no like previews of air-to-air combat or anything like that, which is going to happen.
they're gonna
we're
hold that
probably
stuff
going to get that. So we might lose one or all of the dragons in the Battle of Winterfell. If that happens, then the Whites definitely win, and then we have to go to King's Landing, and the Golden Company standing outside of King's Landing, and here comes everybody from the north down,
Right.
and
just wipes out King's Landing, and then the Greyjoys win.
right,
Because they're out on an island.
Right. One of the theories that was left out there, which I don't particularly like, but I can see it happening, is the last scene in the last episode is the Night King standing on the shore looking off to Essos.
Okay.
And so the Whites have won, they've taken everything
Yeah.
out of Westeros and
And the dragons can fly across the
and
water.
Right.
So he'd have to leave his army here, but he could take maybe some or all of his
lieutenants,
yeah, with
are.
him,
Yeah,
and
his
they
generals.
could just make some more over there.
The only other thing, there's a whole bunch of things that we can talk about. Does Brianna and Jaime get together finally? Does Gilly actually become a more important character because she's kind of been this important character, but like a side note?
And baby Sam
and
too.
baby
There's
Sam
a lot
too,
of stuff
that's still going on
swirling
there.
around about him.
One of my favorite theories is actually this whole story is being narrated by Sam.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
And they're writing it in the book as he's an old maester.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that happens that he would only know like second or third hand kind of thing, and so that kind of follies. But the big thing the last thing I really want to talk about was Jon and Dany. After the events of the last episode of last season, where we know that Jon is actually the rightful heir because he's a Targaryen and a Stark, and Dany has been this gung-ho, rah-rah, it's my throne, damn to hell, I'm going to burn King's Landing to the ground, and Tyrion's talked her out of it, and she's got a temper and all this stuff. So what happens when they really find out? You know they're going to find out soon, like the first episode or second episode, because Bran is there and he has no filter.
Right.
And Sam has a filter, but it's not, once Bran gets going, well, I read it in the book, and da-da-da.
Yeah, Sam will be, Jon, can I speak to you?
Yeah.
And Bran will just be like, oh, you slept with your aunt.
Yeah, that's totally what's going to happen.
Wait, what?
So how are they both going to take this?
Yeah.
How are they both going? And there's a ton of theories out there of different angles, and you just take whatever angle you want. Dany gets pissed off, burns everything to the ground, burns everything in King's Landing, rides off to Essos, whatever. They put aside their differences because they've both fought against the Whites now.
Yeah.
And the White Walkers.
Well, it's not like her family has had a problem with
incest in the past.
So
right.
she shouldn't care. But what maybe will make her care is that his claim is higher
rank
than hers.
Although Jon multiple times has been thrust into leadership, and he said no and handed it off to somebody else. So it'd be very easy for him. The scene's going to be awkward
to say, let's do it together.
Let's just do it together. And you are the queen, and I will reign as your king, but I will defer to you. Kind of that kind of conversation, which I think is actually makes the most sense. The problem is there's back to the prophecies,
right?
There's the prophecy that now the wording of it is really kind of sketchy, but essentially that the king will kill the queen, and the queen is a Targaryen.
Right.
Is essentially what the prophecy is, and so and for Westeros to survive, it has to she has to die as queen.
What if they don't wrap it up?
Well, that's the other thing is we know that there's a prequel series coming.
Yeah, but that's not going to help this story.
That's not going to help this story, and I'm wondering if they leave it open-ended like they did Sopranos. Like a lot of the different talk that I've seen online has been about the script has been amazing and people have been crying and they're super emotional. And then Benioff and Weiss said when the last episode airs, we will not be anywhere where we can get cell phone coverage,
Twitter, no Twitter,
no internet
Facebook.
access. We will be
sequestered in
an Irish, probably on some Irish island drinking Guinness with Momoa. But so that leads, I don't want to do this, but it's kind of hard not to. It leads me to think that they're going to leave it open-ended.
Yeah.
And I one of my favorite endings of a show ever was Sopranos. And just them going to black and letting you just tell your, I don't.
Did they die? Did they not?
They just went on.
Right.
That was the point of the story.
It was very sketchy
because
because he was looking and there was people and
and that's kind of, it's also been, if you leave it open ended, you can go back to Dany saying, I want to break the wheel.
It's true.
And if she breaks the wheel as we know it,
then all those prophecies are out.
Those prophecies are out the window. But that also doesn't. But if she doesn't, if she breaks the wheel, that the existing wheel that's there, but she makes her own new wheel, well, then the story just happens again. Each of the houses are going to fade away from each other, even though they're going to forget that they all fought together. They're going to start bickering amongst each other, and then the Lannisters are going to rebuild.
But that's history. We're doomed to repeat it.
Right. And I think if you take what Martin has taken from Tolkien and that whole concept of it continues to repeat itself after time and people forget and stuff like that. Yeah. If you take that thought process and you add it on to the storytelling process that they've started doing after the books ran out, it leans into that concept. And so I think it could be a very interesting, it would be cool, Gendry's on the throne, Davos is the hand, Brienne is the head of the captain's guard. Sam and Gilly are building the new Maester's, facility in King's Landing. Yeah. And that's the end of the show. And they're all like,
that's way too happy of an
right.
No.
And that's I just want Gendry to do something because he's my favorite right now. Actually, I kept every time we were doing the rewatch, I'm like, Gendry's my favorite. And then 20 minutes later, Davos is my favorite.
Tyrion's my favorite.
Tyrion's my favorite. I like Jaime. Brienne's awesome. No, Hound's the favorite. So there's a ton of other stuff out there to be talked about, discussed, and whatever.
Yes.
We will be doing a week-to-week breakdown of each of the episodes. I want to try to keep them under 15 minutes, but there's going to be so compact and stuff that we're going to have to do our best to to just
Maybe we'll do a couple of 15-minute ones. and
yeah, maybe a short, like, this is what
release
happened,
some-
and then maybe a bigger one or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But please let us know what you think. Who ends up with the Iron Throne? Does the wheel get broke? Do they melt the Iron Throne down? Which is one of the things that I actually, because they melted all the swords together with dragon fire.
Right.
Would make sense if the dragons
The dragons
melted
melted
it
away.
all away. And who gets Gandalf's sword? These are important questions. Let us know in the comments. And do you think that Gendry is the prince that's promised? He is. Let us know. Like this video. Help us out by subscribing to the channel and helping us out on Patreon. We're working for a goal there. Like we said in the past, we are moving here soon, so our frequency is not going to be great, but we're going to do the best we can.
You can't see it, but behind the camera is a ton of boxes.
Tons of boxes. We've already started the pack. So help us out everywhere and share with all your friends, especially your Game of Thrones friends. And until next time, good night, cult members.